live. Hey, all you cats and kittens. I thought about doing a quaba. Like, as you could see, I don't know if you could see it, but I'm giving my African fit today. You know, your girl went to Ghana. She had her clothes made. These necklaces were a gift from my friend who was doing a graduate program in South Africa. But, you know, much like your Black Studies professor who spent the semester in the motherland, I have come back with my African prince, and I'm claiming my African identity in the U.S. Child. Today we are talking about Homegoing, a book by Yaa Gyasi. I'm Keyoka, the Awkward Black Nomad. But as you know, or maybe you don't know, we have a book club, the Read and Wander Book Club. Okay, if you are wondering what that is or how you can read the next book with us, you don't have to wonder. You can join the book club. I'm going to bring on my co-host, Yvonne McBride, writer extraordinaire.
Hey,
Hi, say
people.
hi to people.
Hey, y'all. Long
And
time
today
no
we,
see.
yes, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. We've been on a little hiatus too. And we are joined today by the lovely D of H&D Abroad. Hi, Miss Mamas.
Y'all know I'm down with a good book, and this one is a treasure. I wasn't ready though, but it's
Wasn't
a treasure.
yes.
Child. To be honest, none of us were. Okay, this was um, a really good selection. I may switch I was having some internet trouble yesterday, so I may switch to my hotspot. But going around, if you guys want to take the mic, what was something that was memorable for you? Just like as an overview of the book, what was one thing that you feel like you took away from the novel?
So, history. I really enjoyed how she dove into how each part expanded my view of historical facts. We learned something while we were getting the story. The narrative was built around, how we came to be here in America, but also like the confronting what happened in the motherland at the beginning and how she intertwined all the historical moments throughout the decades and centuries. So that's what I'm holding on to.
Yeah, I feel like if I were going to name the book, what happened to us? What happened to us? Because I think when I didn't know history, I thought those who were there got the better end.
Mm.
And I'm learning now as I'm interviewing more people that have relocated to Ghana, to the Gold Coast area, that that's also what some there feel like happened to us in the US. And this happened to all of us at varying degrees, but pain, struggle is our story, not just those who left, but also those who were impacted by what happened. And to see those stories just through the generations. I actually had the ebook as well as listen to the audio. So I think I got a different perspective of the book because I chose to that way to interface with the story, and I would not have been able to progress through that book without that approach. I'm pretty sure y'all will ask why. We'll get to why, but yeah, that is the overarching thing for me, is what happened to us. A kind of a parallel view that shows what happened, but she did it generation by generation.
I think for me, my biggest takeaway was sort of the connectedness. I, as a Black American, never really felt any sort of connection to any part of Africa,
Mhm.
right? Like I was completely comfortable with the idea that I had a separate identity and I was able to trace my lineage as far as I could. and I was comfortable with that. But I think through travel and also reading and this novel in particular, I'm really learning about how our ancestors are connected to the continent in a way that I hadn't felt before. So I'm grateful for this book, and I think I'm also grateful for the opportunity that I've had to venture to the continent. This was my third time in Africa, but my first time in West Africa, and I had a beautiful experience. And to read the novel and then go to the actual setting of the book was probably life changing. I would say that it was life changing.
Were you reading the book while you were over there, or did you read the book before you got over there?
So this was my second time reading. So I've read it once a few years ago. I don't remember when. But I also, like, in preparation for the trip, read it again, the audiobook. And look at me being rude. Hey Alicia. Hi. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the chat. And hi Xavier. That's my sissy pop, everybody. So
Hi,
welcome to
sis.
the conversation, you guys. You know, Black folk, as you filter in, I always say this: we speak it when we come into somebody's house. Okay, so please drop down in the comment section. Let us know you're there. Say hello. If you have read this book and you want to add in your commentary, that's very welcome. Yeah. So this is my second time reading, and I feel like I got a different kind of grasp of what the book means to me and my identity as a Black American this time around. So let's jump in. There was a lot. This book had a lot. Where do we want to start?
Let's start. I think with the beginning, the main mother, right? How the lineage, how the lineage got started, and her name, right? I'm glad that we learned her name later in the pages, Mame, and that's what mother figure, nurturing, and how the names of almost all the characters play a part in their story. But the mother child relationships in each of I see them as short stories, right? I see this as a collection of short stories. The novel, how they came to be, it's like all Aunt Hager's children, like that novel, how they piece together generation to generation. But the mother child relationship and how that played a part, especially the first one, right? Ife's mother, or lack of mother, like the evil, the evilness of Baba, like that just blew me. How she sold her to the white people because she didn't want her, presence. And then we later found out why, you know what I mean? Like how that affected her as a mother, and then how in turn that affected her mothering with Quay, all of it. So just that Mame was the beginning of the structure, and then how each child, even though the second child, Issa, how did y'all pronounce it? She started her life as a, exalted child, and then how her life took a turn. So what did y'all think about the relationships between the mother and the children?
So I believe the Asante tribe in Ghana, they actually trace their matrilineal line. So women inherit property, and I think that being like a woman essentially being the backbone of the story is figurative for how family structures are built even today, like for Black Americans. Because I'm not saying, like, because I appreciate that there is probably equal representation for the men in the book, because I don't know if I want to say half, but we get a really beautiful picture of Black men in this book, like very diverse picture of Black men, because there's like, we have a gay character, we have you know, we have men who ain't shit. We have really phenomenal fathers who are present. Then we have men who like attempted to be present, but then the child got taken away. We got a little bit of everything.
Right.
But the women are still the through line. And I appreciate that as a structure because I think it reflects real life.
Yeah.
Family dynamic. So I have a psychology background, and you know, just looking at family structures where they felt empowered, where they felt like they lacked, where they felt, when I say empowered, like the example, and I should have pulled out the genealogy that I was referencing so that I could make sure I said everybody's name correctly. But, you know, there's a time within the story where, you know, you have a child who has a privileged lineage, but that connects it to the oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a choice of, I can live in this privilege, or I can seek what makes me feel valuable. And to see that play, to see how that played out. I mean, you think, okay, he did it. And then it's just like, but there are consequences, and being able to see that roll forward and how that impacted that side of the family. It just, ooh,
it was
mother-in-law, daughter-in-law, like those were very intriguing dynamics that I feel like gave me that second level. So it's very good storytelling from my reader perspective. But it's also, you get this, there's an emotional component, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk about my take on it as someone who lives in a story. It was a real struggle for me at times, where I was glad that I was going to do this, because I probably would have tapped out much earlier, because it's a good story when I can put myself in it as a character and feel the things that they're feeling. So, yeah.
I had to put it, I kept walking away. I had to put it down and pick it up. Like we were talking about how the reformatory was difficult to get through. It wasn't that difficult to get through for me, but this one was. And I don't know, because they're both based in reality, right? But I don't know, something about each story, like it was trauma. Each story, I'm like, where is the happy? There's no happiness in these stories.
Thank you.
Like, I was like, where? And then when you got to them, I cried so much. I cried so much in this novel reading it. And I wish I had done some of the audio too, because maybe it would have, you know, I don't know. I'm sure it wouldn't have, but I just needed some relief. Like when H came home, and at first he was saying, you know, I'm not going to reach out to my ex-wife. She don't want to hear from me and all that. And then when she was in that house cooking for him, I burst out crying like, oh my God, thank you. Some happiness for this man. What is happening? Like,
not just that, but to hear his partner say, when you said another woman's name, what it did to her, I was like,
look, oh, we communicating our feelings?
Let me tell you what had to happen. Yes. Keyoka had to be like, why is this girl messaging me every time she get to a part that she need to just snap? This book needs to be read in community for real, because you are just, you know, because what happens is it tells a story, and then it transitions, and you just like, I need to take a breath. Like, I needed to ground. I needed to sit with it, because when this is a story, this is an experience, like an emotional experience. And then I think about myself and my story and the match points that I feel with the characters, that our struggle as women is not new.
Yes.
And that I'm neither early or late. I mean, I'm neither too early or too late in my understanding. And that talking about the book together, I believe it's meant to be a connection, not just to the story, to Africa itself. This book begs for connection, because if you're processing this alone, I don't think that you get the motivation, that you get what I think we as a community do. Sometimes you need to give somebody a high five. Sometimes, let me tell you why this book. So Keyoka was reading this book on her way to Africa. I'm from Birmingham. Mm-hmm. So when they're talking about Pratt City, I know Pratt City. Okay. When he's talking about the coal, my parents right now live down the street from one of the coal processing.
Wow.
So when I say this story touched me deeply, and I was like, you think something going on in Birmingham? I was like, I was trying to get up out of there, but there was a time. Yeah. There was a time when it's easy to see in this story where it's the British, because they had a name for them, a couple of names for them. But that here they were at the same level when it came to poverty. They were at the same level, right? Working together in the union. Yeah. This is my brother. When you are ankle to ankle, H was ankle to ankle.
Right.
That part of the story said, okay, I can't make one person the villain only. Mm-hmm. And in these times in which we are politically, we are asked, we are called, we are encouraged, we are baited to believe this is right, or these people are evil, or these people, and it's making me say, step back a minute. Who are you? What can you gain from where you have come from, and where do you want to take it? Because none of them knew. H didn't even know he was letter H of A through.
Right.
Okay. When you are disconnected, I mean, like y'all, like I said, this was just so much.
And it was so taking that, like the disconnect, because each story you wanted just to sit, you wanted to continue that story. So every time it ended, I'm like, God damn it. I mean, I'm like, can we stick with this story? But that's how it happened. Like it was happening all at once, right? And then like no one, because I kept waiting for the moment where they would meet the other person, or like somebody from their family. Like H had all them brothers and sisters. Like at no point, were they going to meet like in another story, or so you can't wait for that. It never happened until the end, right? But that was part of that's the one of the themes of the book. Like, no, after this, it was disconnected. We were disconnected from them. They were disconnected from us, on continents, your family, like all of it, how easily your history evaporates, right? If you don't have your parent, like Akua and Abina, like if you not grow up, she took her to the missionary, got away from them because something happened in the village. She wasn't going to get married, but then she died before she could even get the history of her people. So how fleeting, how easy it is for you just to get cut off from your your heritage. your lineage. And then who
But
are you? How do you build yourself up from that without a foundation of that? Like, how do you make yourself, how do you become a person? H, Akua, all of these people who didn't, Kojo, who didn't have their parents, didn't have that history. And now you have to become somebody else. You have to make yourself, right? That's
but
so
then
many.
it's also when you do have your parents, they are traumatized, right? Like because H actually did have a mama,
Yes.
and several characters did have parents, but what
Ness,
happened to them, like Essie,
Ness.
Essie raised Ness, but Ness had a completely different view of who her mother was. Like it changed her identity. So the Essie that we were originally introduced to was naive, but she was also loved by her parents. She
mm-hmm.
was a golden child, essentially, but then she had horrific things happen to her in Elmina Castle and on the slave passage and coming to the US for the first time and that whole transition of becoming a slave. And so Ness grew up with her mother being stoic. She
Yes.
had no, and they were not allowed to speak their native language. She had no, it was taken from her identity, her heritage was taken from her, but also her mother, who could have taught her, was severely traumatized. And I
Yes.
think oftentimes, even as we go through, all of the characters, there's a lot that isn't even said by the people who are around the children who will grow into adults and then not know who they are because their parents don't tell them. Even Willie and like some of the and Carson,
Mm-hmm.
another one, Sonny. We look
Mm-hmm.
at him, he was raised around, like, yes, his father ended up passing, and so he didn't grow up with his father, but he grew up with his mother. But she couldn't say, hey, you have all, we have, the reason why your dad isn't around is because of
And
all this.
she chose
She
not to say
couldn't
it.
say it. She
Yeah.
chose not to say it, but how do you verbalize it?
Yeah.
How do you verbalize your father decided to be a white man and abandoned us?
Yes. But then that goes back into the like the theme like of mame, nurturing mother, like the how you are raised by these people, right? How
Mhm.
nurture versus nature, right? So throughout the book, I kept wondering, are they cursed? Like, is this a curse? Like the curse that was talked about, the curse that they talked about, or did she curse them by burning this, and then the curse just follow each line, each heritage line through each sister. Like,
But then we all curse because we all have a little bit of those stories in all of our family. Like,
but that's where the saying
you
comes from.
know,
Like, you carry the sins of your father, right?
mm,
When what is the quote? When Mama Akua says when y'all finally comes home, right? And Mama Akua says basically shorthand that the priest, the fetish priest told her you have evil in your lineage, right? And she thought that evil in her lineage was from her burning her kids up, but no, it was from your forefathers being part of this slavery, the slave system. That's the lineage, and regardless, somebody, it has to play a part. Somebody has to you know get the karma effects, the passed down trauma from this. So I don't know. I've always questioned that. Like, sins of your father. Why should people pay for the sins of their fathers? But reading this, I'm like, damn, is it? So I don't know. I guess that's the question. Do y'all believe that was the curse, or it was just life?
well, D is making a face. Hold on. I just want to speak to everybody. As you come into the room, drop down in the comment section. Tell us hi. If you have any commentary to give on the book, I just want to speak to everybody. Hi, Talto. Talto, I recognize your face, but I don't recognize your picture. Did you change your username? Maya. Hey. Alicia, always amazing. Yes, so we're still finishing the book. It's okay, we're still finishing the book, child. We gonna you gonna have some spoilers though. And oh, we speaking Spanish in the chat. We love I love a multi-linguistic experience. Okay. Okay, we are creative beings. Okay, so the question is, are we cursed? I don't like that ideology because didn't they try to say that with the children of Ham?
Okay.
I don't like
Were
that.
they cursed from the book? Now are we? What do you believe in the curse?
But it's hard not to internalize this book because
it is.
I was reading it and I was like, is this my family? There were parts where I'm like, how she know about this? Because it didn't even feel like, and I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. A lot of so we can go in a lot of places with this conversation, but I think that because there's this division between African Americans or Black Americans and Africans, it was, I think, initially when I read this book, I thought, oh, here we go again. Okay. We are always depicted a certain way by African authors. And I thought that going into the conversation or going into the reading, that is what was going to happen. But I think because Yaa Gyasi was born in Ghana but was raised in Alabama, and she has had this experience where she's actually more connected to her American identity because she is similar to Marjorie, but even Marjorie in the story had more connection to her Ghanaian heritage than Yaa did. They didn't frequently go back to Ghana. The only reason that Yaa went to Ghana is because she had a dissertation or something from Stanford to write her novel. So having that experience and still being like steeped in American culture and having some knowledge of the Black American experience changes the way she wrote the book. And I think it also lends itself to more of a complete and lenient experience of Black American identity that oftentimes we really don't get in our novels, especially when they're written by African authors.
I think she did a good it was a balance.
Yeah.
No character and no lineage, no line were forgiving. Everybody had their sins to bear. It was balanced on each side because that's why James, the one Dee was talking about, he said, he couldn't stomach being part of his family being part of the slave trade. So he wanted to disappear basically and start his life over. Like leave the pampered life. So, and whereas his father and Effie didn't have a choice, but like that part, he was tortured from that part. He was the only one out of that lineage who recognized, like, there were people under me who look like me and, who I come from, and he couldn't stomach it. Right. So it's that part too. Each part, the Abina, was having her own traumas or confronting and problems confronting that fact. Even though she didn't know where James came from, she called him old man, which was we'll get to that, but it was kind of weird to me that she didn't connect when she went into the village. I mean, when she went to see the museum of the stool, and the man said James called her James, and she didn't recognize that name as her father. Like, she don't know her father's name, but like stuff like that, they were balanced in, there were well-rounded characters who weren't thinking about not confronting him or not recognizing that this is what's happening. The ones who knew where they were from, especially.
But maybe it's also because you brought up something. Maybe it's also she identified her father in the way that the people around them, they called him old man. So it's like, I don't know you by who you tell me you are. I know you by who others call you.
Right.
So it's like that disconnect in a way.
True. Right. But going back to the part about, us not being vilified basically in the book. Yes, she was from each part, she's Ghanaian, especially, and she grew up in Alabama, but also because I think her purpose, I think she learned more about her lineage when she was researching the book to write the book. So she wanted to give that viewpoint for everybody, but also just well-rounded characters. You want them to be balanced. You don't want them to have, or you want your readers to think about, okay, it's this aspect of it, and then it's this aspect of it, so that we can, it's a homegoing, so that we can feel connected, which we do by reading the book, by reading each person's story.
Okay, I want to go back to Alicia's comment. Well, actually, Yvonne, you're the one who said it, but Alicia's touching on it. So she said, y'all got so deep on us. We're not cursed per se, but we end up experiencing our forefathers' history because our history challenges our present and how we exist when we simply don't know it and why.
Yes, and that's basically what I'm gonna read the quote, what she says. When someone does wrong, whether it is you or me, this is Ma Akua. Whether it is mother or father, whether it is Gold Coast man or the white man, it is like fisherman casting a net into the water. He keeps only the 1 or 2 fish that he needs to feed himself and puts the rest in water, thinking that they will go back to normal. No one forgets that there was once captive, even though they are free now, but still you have to let yourself go. Then she says, what I know, my son, evil begets evil, it grows, it transmutes, so that sometimes you cannot see that the evil in the world begin as the evil in your own home. I'm worried that you will have suffered. So she's saying, like, either you, even though we didn't commit it or you didn't commit it, these are the evils that have been done. And at some point they, when we say transference of trauma and memory, that is what they're talking about. Like the memories of Akua, she didn't even know her history, but then she started dreaming of the fire woman, right?
That story, I had to put it down.
Yeah.
I literally had to. Yeah. That was so, to have something visit you that you don't even know your history, but she's dreaming it and trying to resolve it in her dream. That I suggest, if you struggle with emotional topics, things that bring up emotion for you, that you have access to both the physical book and the audio book, because it can help you. It can help you keep going. Because I would have stopped.
Or it was very,
because of the psychological layer. I mean, when he told her how her mother died.
Yeah.
The anger that I felt toward the missionary.
Oh, the priest. Yes.
Yeah. I was going to bring up men, and then that came up in my brain, but the part of this story I was listening to out loud with my husband, and he was like, is it a man that's reading the book? I mean, that wrote this book? Because she's writing authentically from a real male perspective. Like, he was like, it would be believable if you told me it was a man, because he heard the part of the story was where Kojo was talking about the fear that he had every time he saw. My husband works part-time for the post office. He was like, he was afraid of a postal carrier. Mm-hmm. He was afraid of the police, and how his how his wife brought him, settled his spirit. There are some beautiful love stories. Yes, we are talking about real trauma, real triggering storytelling, but we're also talking about real life, real connection, real storytelling. Because the first story that got that actually got me was, I think the son's name was James, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Not
so
Key.
Quay
Quay.
was Effie's son. The first son, James, was Quay's son.
yes, yes. And so the way they met, and he was a person of stature and she was not, and he was just like,
I want you. I'm
I
coming.
will be back for
Yes.
you.
Yes. And she waited. That was another happy moment. I'm like, thank you. Because he left, disappeared. I would not have been waiting. You understand what I'm telling you? She waited for him to come. But yes.
That story, no, y'all, back up. I don't know, Yvonne, can you find it where they're in the funeral line? This might have been the second time I called and left a message for Keyoka. And I was like, she said, I am my own nation.
Yeah.
Baby, I was like,
she did. Yeah.
She did.
Him and
She did leave me a voice note.
Kind of woman I want to be.
She did.
Absolutely not.
He said,
Absolutely not.
I am my own nation. He was like, yeah, I want that. That's what I want. I was like, lead. You talking about the matriarchal lineage? Yes. That right there.
But then they got together and they were so poor. I was like, what?
And he said, but this is what I have wanted my whole life. Even if I knew I couldn't grow,
yes,
I had a black thumb, not a green thumb. He couldn't grow nothing, y'all.
He was so happy. He was still happy. I'm a fan for you. Keep talking.
Yes. That story, Kojo's story.
The love stories were
even
good.
If I lost you, I'm still looking for you, baby.
Not you have a husband and you still
look. H walked in that house and said he smelled that bacon.
He smelled that bacon. And she didn't turn around. She just
cooking them collard greens. I was like, there is.
Yeah, I appreciated that too. There are some love. These men was loving some
Sam.
Yes.
Sam and Ness. Baby, it was a train wreck happening when it started. But that man watched that she put her. Okay, I feel some kind of way that she put herself out there like that.
But she took it.
Wherever you go, I go.
And then they both climbed out that tree. When they both climbed down from that tree, I was bawling. You understand what I'm saying?
That was so sad.
They're going back to the devil. They're going back to the devil so that little boy can be free, girl.
Hey.
That was so sad.
I was bawling. But she went down. He went down with her. We both going down here.
Yeah.
Because she didn't think she didn't know he was gonna follow her when she climbed down that he climbed out with her.
Yeah. Y'all, mm-hmm. Most of all, through horror, we survived. Like, I just knew that it could have ended at any point. Like, there wasn't a lot of children happening in the beginning of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a way that the lineage was preserved. It made me say to myself, why have I been preserved? Why have I been chosen to carry a legacy, provide a legacy? What am I uniquely positioned for in my family lineage? I'm not here by accident.
Mm-hmm.
I am with all the not so great things and beautiful things that have happened in my life. I was preserved for my family legacy. It's just me and my sister. I don't have no brothers. So, you know what I'm saying? It's just I have two sons. This story hit me as a mother. Ooh, when you've been asked to raise, I'm going back all the way to the beginning. When you've been asked to raise the child that your husband fathered, I can't blame her for not for feeling some kind of way about this child. I just, but at every point where you thought it's gonna end here, it could have ended with H, but he was preserved. What are you here for? That's what I keep saying is what are, it made me ask that question of myself, to sit with. I'm still sitting with that question. Keyoka, what has this book caused you to sit with? Because you've read it twice. I don't know if I can read it 2 times, but
I think that is a beautiful question to ask. I think that is a beautiful question to ask. I often think about, so I'm a writer, and I wonder how many writers there were who became slaves, you know? And I think a lot about the gifts that I have that make it easy for me to write. What did that look like when we were still in Africa? Like what kind of skills did people have, you know, before there was like a written language? Even like when I think my ability to imagine characters and to recall things, or to emotionally connect with people, like what did those gifts look like to where it passed down to me and I decided to become a writer? Like, so I think about maybe my place in my lineage, and I also think about, like you said, what am I here for? Like what gifts are preserved in me that came from a person centuries down the line? Like who is the me centuries down my line that lived in Africa, and making that kind of connection? I'm thinking about and my dog Frank. I don't know if y'all heard him. I'm thinking about when we went to in Ghana, we went to, I can't say the word. It's a museum. I don't know how to say the word. It starts from the N. I'll put it in the chat if I find it. And
The
our,
Golden Stool, the Museum of the Golden Stool.
no, it was like the Nikin something. We had a presentation by a griot, and he walked around. He gave us kind of an oral history as we looked through at like art pieces. So we saw they're recreating they're recreating head. So you know how the Tiananmen soldiers are buried, and
Yes.
how like it was common practice to bury pharaohs with their entire army, and with the people who lived in the house, the cooks, the maids and things like that. So there is something similar in African tradition. He don't want me to be great.
We can hear you. Good.
There's something similar in African tradition where they try to memorialize the people who have passed on. And so at this museum, they're recreating the heads of people who would have been sold on the Middle Passage. So it's a way to honor our ancestors. And there are like at least 1,000. I saw like 1,000 different carvings that are all individual and unique. I done lost my point. But to go and see something like that, and to hear about our history, and to receive this presentation from a griot, it made me think like, could that have been something in my line that maybe over time we had lost our connection to, like the oral storytelling, but somehow it transferred down to me as my ability to write. Because even when I think back to like my aunt always wanted to be a writer, but didn't think it was like a viable career, right? My grandmother, I have like pieces of paper where she used to like scribble her thoughts, things like that, that were kind of like passed down in my family. Like, so we all kind of had that something, that ability to tell stories that carried on in my line to where it got to me. And I wonder what that would have looked like centuries ago.
But it's the same thing. It's like it's in your DNA, right? If that is true, then it passed down to you, even if you did not grow up with them telling you that, right? Even if you did, if they did not pass that on to you, it came through by osmosis. So if talent can go through DNA, right? If that can be handed down, why can't trauma? Why can't all of these things be handed? That's what my question is. When I was saying, I'm not going to accept that we're cursed, but if memory can be passed, and listen, if you are not, you may not be, able to read each other's thoughts, but empaths, right? If you have special gifts, if you have premonitions, any of that, if you have dreams that come out to fruition, any of that, if you have a strong sense of that, then like that's memory, right? If that can be handed down through, person to person, people talk about that all the time. There's books written about it. People have that. So if talent can be passed down without knowing, if memory can be passed down, then trauma can be passed down. I don't know. I think that's something that, and if we know that, then as we're talking about our purpose, then is our purpose, right, to break those traumas, to break those lines, and if you know about them, to make conscious effort to break those things.
Yeah. Epigenetics is that.
Yes.
I don't know why I react to that. And so we've been documenting in the sciences how true that is, that even outside of a response to a stimulus happens, but generationally you still get this response without the stimulus. Mm-hmm. And they're able to show that several generations outside of that particular thing. I feel like the reason why I don't like the cold is I listened to my mother's story growing up in a house with 10 children, 2 adults. She was just like, I remember how cold it was. And she was like, I never liked being cold. And then my grandmother talked about that. And I was just like, well, maybe, it's more than just, my levels might be off. I think that there's generationally something about not fearing the cold, not just, I don't like to be cold. Like it brings up that level of fear and being out of control that I feel like I can see how it could have been passed through my family. So where I am with homecoming, and somebody said something about ruminating on the layered meaning of homegoing. Can we unpack that? Because I this morning I was in one of the travel groups, and people have talked about, do I want to go back and have an experience that puts me at a firsthand experience of what it was like to be in the castle? Like, this story is really good about explaining it, but she talked about being stacked on top of each other even there. I thought that was just in the slave ships. I don't know. I'm not ready to do it yet. I don't think I'm emotionally strong enough to do it, but why do you think that you chose the name Homegoing?
Homegoing.
Well, I want to go back because I went to the castle, and it's So it's an interesting experience because Cape Coast is gorgeous, like breathtakingly gorgeous. It looks like when you see resorts or you see like commercials for like go to Seychelles or go to, the Bahamas where you catch your breath looking out at Cape Coast. Um and then they decide to put a slave castle there. Right? Like it's like you don't understand how something so horrible could happen in a place so beautiful, right? I think for me it does bring home the like we were really treated terribly. Our ancestors were treated horrendously. And I would even say that homegoing is the light version, right? Because when you see the castle and there is a staircase that goes up from the women's dungeon that leads directly into a private room in the governor's quarters. It drives home that we were really psychologically, physically treated like not even human beings. The structure of the castle is in such a way to reinforce the idea that you are no longer human. Going through the door of no return, it's created smaller so that you have to crouch. You
Mm-hmm.
have to literally crouch, like to go in it because it's doing something to your mind mentally. And connecting it to like epigenetics and generational trauma. If that kind of process was happening to us for centuries, I mean, it makes sense why Black Americans struggle in the way that they do, or anyone in the diaspora, right? Because it's a mentality thing. We are literally physically treated like less than human. I didn't have like a big emotional reaction, but I could see how others could. But I think for me, it was like a knot. It was tying up together pieces of my identity. Like there was a part of my heritage that I didn't feel connected to, but when I went to Ghana and I had that experience, I was like, oh, so I don't even like, I'm someone who would very much call myself a Black American. I grew up in a very Black family, right? Where like, you know who you are, we're Black. I think I'm African now. I think I'm African American now. I see the lines. Like I see where I come from. Cuz we really did. And then you talk to Ghanaians and it's interesting because they don't see us as other. They see us as family. Like it's like you going home and they're actually very concerned about the idea that our histories are being erased because from their perspective, we don't even know the completeness of our history. And the little bit that we do know is facing erasure. So the Ghanaians that I went to when I went to that museum that I put in the chat and also when I was at the slave castle and we had a tour, they're very very concerned about maintaining the history and the knowledge there, like to the point where they're building a statue of Frederick Douglass there that
Yeah.
they were supposed to release to go to the US and they're holding it because they don't know what's going to happen in the next few years. And they said we actually won't release this structure to the US until we can see what's going to happen. We're going to keep it here in Ghana.
The smart.
And the fact that like we're in their history. So when we go on these tours, they're talking about Marcus Garvey. They have a W.B. Du Bois museum. They're talking about our historical figures as if they're their own because they see us as a part of their history and their heritage too. So for me, going there and tying together these two identities made things a lot stronger. So I think every Black American needs to go and have that experience. And those questions that you and I talked about, ask them those questions and see that response. See if they feel responsible for the slave trade. See what their perspective is. Because I think that would open a lot of doors mentally for a lot of us.
Mhm.
I two things you mentioned. There are not there are responsibility for the slave trade, but going back to Dee's comment about just homegoing, it was a thread throughout each story, right? Some people wanted to get to the homeland of their mothers. Um, some people had trouble fitting in with the homeland of their forefathers. So it was a continuous thread throughout the novel, the homegoing, um, as well as the overarching theme. But in relation to like, I've always felt connected. I've never had a problem with African American. I've never just identified with Black. My family has as well. We're from my mom and my cousin took the African genealogy test where they go back to your tribe. You have to do, if you're a woman, you have to do your matriarch line. If you're a man, you have to do your patriarch line. So it's different from, the US where you get the difference. You're this percentage European, you're this percentage whatever. It only gives your African tribe because they have the database of African blood. So we're from the Bobi people of Biko Island, like it's Equator Guinea Island. That's where our our matriarch line is based in. But even before we knew that, I've always identified as that. And I never understood people who just, disconnected it because everybody has ancestors. We all know that not all of us, but most of our ancestors came from Africa. We just got cut off, right? So, but this reading this, and I've always like, when people say, "Oh, well, Africans sold Africa," they're people to the slave trade, and I'm like, yeah, we did, but it's a small percentage. But reading this made it very, it was a capitalist system, right? Introduced by white people, but they fed into it, and how, it makes you confront deeply how it affected them, how it affected us. And that was harsh. That was a harsh and thorough. She did a harsh and thorough job of explaining that through story. But also, like, you have to confront it. We can't keep denying it. They can't deny it and we can't deny it. That's part of us coming together and say, okay, this happened, right? It's part of why there's some tension between, those over there and us over here. There's part of the reason why we don't want to identify with, it's multi-level, but it happened. You have to confront it. And she did a very great job of telling the story and seeing the blatant, yes, we did it. We did it for this reason, because we wanted to be powerful. It gave us power. And then also the consequences of that and how it affected us. So that's one thing. But two, I lost my thought. The second thing that Keyoka brought up was when you were talking about going back and them, you have to duck, and them taking away like identity, building identity. Again, in the book, each person, if you're cut off, then how do you go about building your identity? Keyoka said she didn't have any identity to Africa. So how does that happen? Even if you're not connecting your lineage back to Africa, like, how do you grow an identity when your stories have been cut off, when you don't know, like, the fact that you have to do that, right? How many years does it take for anybody to develop an identity that's not passed down to you, right? So then you take it from society. Sonny, right? He didn't have the identity of his father side. His mother cut him off from that history. So in him, did that cause his damage, right? Of creating his identity? It seems to me, he felt like he didn't have one. So he was just out here in limbo floating. And then that's how, men and women become, I guess, flaky, these are the demons that you have to deal with, you can't, because you don't know how to start your identity. You don't know who you come from. You don't know the power of your people. You don't know any of this. And when society is telling you that you're nothing, then what do you become? So I'm glad that she tackled that in a story narrative form so that we can see, you look at people and you think, oh, they're good for nothing, but then you don't know the story behind those people. Why do they present this way? And then Sonny's son, he was like, my father is genius, but it's always something because of his drug use and how he had to deal with his, building his not having identity until later on in life when she told him his father was passing and all of that. Like, how does that affect you as a person? How do you, so going back to Dee's question again, what is our role, right? What is your role now if you have the history and if you don't? Like Keyoka said, we're storytellers. Me and her are writers. We're storytellers. I feel like my role, one of my roles, not my purpose, we're not gonna get into that, but one of my roles is to tell the history in story form, right? If I'm writing, my fiction writing is to tell these stories of where I'm from or the people that experience, so that other people will know this is what's happening. So that's part of, me reading this book. Like, she did this so well. I'm like, okay, I hope the stories that I tell can do the same thing. Like, that's what I got from here. Like, I hope, finding what is your purpose, what is your passion, all of that is identified with, okay, this is crystal clear. She did it so well. I hope I can do it this well. I hope I can tell my stories this well.
I think one of the last things that I wanted to mention that I think she did a good job of, and I feel like it's nuanced, like I'm going to need to sit with the book a minute to really grasp it. But the first time it struck me was when, I can't remember which of the stories, but it was on the Africa lineage, one of the Africa lineage stories, where someone was saying, won't all of this will end, the fighting, the fighting between the tribes, and it will end when slavery ends. So when slavery becomes illegal, and then whoever they were talking to said, no, this is about the land.
Mm-hmm. And when slavery is over, something else will take over.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same thing. I think, for some people, they feel like the Emancipation Proclamation here should have that was the past. We were able to, have this line that said, back then we were doing that. And then going forward, everything is just, we're all equal. And I was reading this. I went to see the Mothers of Gynecology in Montgomery, Alabama. And I went to, we drove past because I didn't have time, but we drove past the Equal Justice, EJI, where they have the lynching memorial and things like that here in Alabama. So I'm reading this and looking at that saying, capitalism expresses itself and it will always find a way to express itself where there's going to be great human loss. You have to devalue and dehumanize something or someone. Look at how we treat the earth for gain. Okay. That we even have environmental justice. We have to, because we are tied to the land. We are tied to the earth, and you can make wealth or take away wealth from this, you cannot uncouple it from capitalism. You cannot uncouple. And I was just like, wow. Like I've been looking for where it'll finally end and we can truly be free. And what I began to realize is I've bought into freedom is out there. What I saw in this story is freedom is in here, and they cannot take that from you. You can grow it and expand it for yourself and encourage and create those safe spaces within your family, your community, within the relationships you have. You can take someone like Ness and Sam and have tender love. Freedom is in here. Ain't nobody gonna give it to you. No process is going to end. That's going to see you fully as human and acknowledge and allow you to grow and flourish to your best potential. It's going to be a fight, whether it's a fight internally because of our experienced trauma, our generational trauma. We're going to be fighting systems forever. So where are you finding your freedom? It's made me say, I need to go to a place. I'm saying this because I was taught, I'm going to use a micro example. Education is highly valued in the Black community. And what I was told was, you get something that they cannot take. But baby, you can get a PhD. You can be, I witnessed a Black man becoming the CEO of a local hospital health system. And when he became CEO, they changed the structure of the corporation so that he would not hold singular power to make decisions. It was a tandem. And as soon as he was moved on, it was reintegrated. When I say to you, I'm in a research environment, I'm sharing my own dirty laundry. I believed what we were taught. You get your education, you get something. I was like, I'm working in this research environment. I need to be a PhD so they can really hear me. No, I just bought into the newest form of slavery, which I believe is higher education, because student loan debt is holding a lot of folk back. It is, I believe, in addition to the school to prison pipeline, there are just so many examples. Education, letters behind your name. What I have learned as a 52-year-old woman is that they will never give you the humanity that you seek. The longer you chase that, the more you're going to get wrapped up. What I have found is that I choose my freedom. I am free here first. And I will choose a life that is in agreement with me, my partner, my family, because we choose our freedom. And the more our community witnesses that, people saying, I'm not leaving because, we built this country. Baby, you can have it, because my freedom is not in a place. Because we here, they don't want us here. We go somewhere else, they don't want us there. I feel like this book has called me to accept that and move forward in my life, embracing that new perspective.
Also, what this book has, because each is trying to succeed in a system that was not built for you, right? So each of these characters in this book especially when you get to our side, when you get to the American side, are trying to exist. First of all, some of them not trying to exceed, some of them trying to exist, and then later in the decades, they're trying to succeed in a system that's not built for them. And the respite that I wanted so bad for each of these characters is sort of, it wasn't coming because of that, right? It wasn't coming because that was either surviving was the goal, or trying to fit in, assimilate was the goal, or trying to live up to a standard that wasn't meant for us was the goal. They never got there. They never got the break. So each, that, like how we've been talking about, each of the happy times, was the respite, but that's going into how you're saying, you have to find your own peace today, present day. If you're going through something, you're striving for something, you may not get to that, but you have, during the process, you have to find your own peace. You have to find your own happiness, even if that goal isn't met. Like, how do you do that? How do you do that? How did they do it? Were they able to do it? And the goal, if my goal is to move out of the country, even moving out of the country is not going to, it may alleviate some things, but some other shit gonna come with it, basically. So how do you find that is the goal? The goal then is not to, ship shape, not to leave and find a place. The goal is to find happiness where you are and carry that with you. And find the moments and carry that with you if you do leave or if you do stay. Like, how do you find those moments? Yeah, that's how I take that part.
I might be biased, but it's easier to find your happiness when you do leave. I might be a little biased, but every time I leave the
country, ain't no happiness out there, Keyoka. That's not what I was saying. I'm not saying there ain't no happiness out there. I'm just saying, if you chasing it, it's always going to be right. It's always going to be the carrot.
Yes.
At the end of the stick. You're never going to get it.
Yes.
Hey, there's never going to be enough money. You're never going to find the perfect partner. It's just, and I'm saying, stop chasing. And I was like, man, if I had 30 years back to realize.
I feel like you and I have talked about that.
I'm saying right now.
Yeah.
You stop chasing. But we are called to recognize it. And I'm hoping that this conversation, this book, rest,
love, get you some love now.
A sabbatical time to interrupt your current train of thought.
Yes.
Like that is what I'm hoping that folks are hearing. That
live now,
rest, because your ancestors didn't get a chance to choose to rest. That you take your freedom from that. That's what I'm saying. It's right. Freedom is right here. Like, you can create. I got my crochet right here. That's my little bit of freedom. I take 10, 15 minutes out the day, 30 minutes out the day to do something where I can see a beginning, a middle, and a completed process. That because I work in knowledge, you don't really get that. And I was just like, but I need to bring that in. I grow things. You see my plants behind me. I grow things because I need to put my hands on something where I can see that it has an impact. If you aren't creating those, what do you call that? The structures where you can see, this is who I was, and I chose peace. I chose freedom for myself, and I can see the difference it's making, where no means no now, where I may not have exactly what I want, but I'm thankful, grateful, and can find joy in what I have. Like, Who can take that from you? Contentment. Not being content and saying I'm satisfied with everything. I'm just saying I can satiate my hunger. Okay.
We both 52. Keyoka
Satiate
like,
my hunger.
Baby, I'm telling you.
That's the thing. Yes. I hear you. She hear you too. She's on the same.
I'm listening.
Now we sound like mamas and children. Come on. Baby,
But
just
it is
wait
hard.
a while. Just wait a while. It'll come for you.
No, but so I hear what you're saying, but it is hard to remove yourself from, like you said, the it's really chasing validation, right? Like chasing the idea that somebody else is going to give you humanity, somebody else is going to give you worth.
Right.
And I think it's difficult when you're in it, because it's like maybe we haven't come into ourselves yet, if that makes sense. So
No, I'm
what
just
are you
saying.
about to say?
We on different sides of the same coin. That's all.
Yes, I was gonna say we saying the same thing. We saying the same thing.
We're on different sides in decades on the same coin. That's all. I want to bring up storytelling though. Keyoka asked in the group, "What is your favorite quote?" And I want to y'all's story. Akua's son was one of my favorite stories. And in it, he's a teacher. His lesson to his students about how he got his scar, right? About the fire, and how he went and asked, well, what did you hear about my face? And what did you hear about my story? And each of them told the different parts of the story. And then he said, okay, so who's true? Like, what's true? Like, going back to the purpose, I'm thinking why she wrote this book, like, it's our side, the Americans, right? It's the our ancestor side, and then the people on the present day Africans telling us, like, okay, this is what we know. We're saying, well, this is what we know, which isn't much. But then who's you reading, trying to get each piece of the story to see like what's true. And basically, he's saying it's the power. We believe the one who has the power, right? It's everybody has their own story in anything. Education, what are we learning, right? When you go to school, whose stories are they telling you? We say we need more African American literature, right? They're trying to take that away from the people in college, in school. Even those stories, like when you read these stories, who do you believe? And especially crucial now when they're trying to take that stuff away, right? And they're trying to rewrite history and say what slavery, Texas is trying to say that we were volunteers. They were volunteers with all of that, right? When you think about like what our children or what your children will be believing, the importance of this book, the importance of her writing the story down, because even millennials don't know or don't identify or don't think to care about how we came over here, how we got to be over here. Can't trace their history back in America, let alone Africa. Like the purpose is to do your independent research, your own independent research, so that you know your history and so that you pass it on, right? And that you can see the well-rounded view of everything. So basically the quote goes this. He wrote on the board, history is storytelling, right? Then he says, this is the problem of history. We cannot know that which we were not there to see and hear and experience for ourselves. We must simply rely on the words of others, those who were there in the olden days. They told stories to the children so that the children would know, so that the children could tell stories to their children, and so on. But now we come upon the problem of conflicting stories. Kojo says that when the warriors came to the village, Their coast was red. But Kwame says that they were blue. Whose story do we believe? The boys go silent. We believe the one who holds the power. He is the one who gets to write the story. So when you study history, you must always ask yourself, whose story am I missing? Whose voice was suppressed so that this voice could come forth? Once you have figured that out, you must find that story too. From there, you begin to a cleaner, yet still perfect picture. So I think that's the point of this book, right? That's what she had in mind when she wrote it. Like, whose history are we believing? As she was writing it, she was trying to get to the bottom of her story, how her family migrated here to U.S. and to give us a complete picture of how it was all done in each side, each family lineage, how we came to be here, how our histories were disconnected, and in looking back and going homegoing, and looking back, how do we piece together, if you're looking for it, how do you piece together your history thoroughly? And these are the stories that came, from her. But then what about your stories? How do you, if you are looking for your lineage, how you're connected to Africa, how you're connected to other people here, like, and what do you believe? What do you believe when you're in school and learning these things? How do you gain your own knowledge and create your own identity? I think that is her roadmap to this. That little quote is what she's given, us as advice.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And true, like storytelling, story weird griots, each story is that author's interpretation, but then another person has another interpretation, and putting that all together, what's especially now today in the fake news, stratosphere, what are you believing? What YouTube videos are you believing? What news, this is not unbiased anymore, like, who are you believing? Right? You have to do your own independent research and see what resonates with you.
Child. But the people don't want to do that no more. Critical thinking. The people said that critical thinking is lost.
I'm going to tell you what I got out of this is I do a lot of traveling, and for a lot of different reasons. When I say do a lot of traveling, that sounds kind of, anyway, I've been intentional about spending a time outside the country. And I feel like going to the continent has to have meaning and purpose, and I'm like, why do I make that experience any different than the exploration that I do
anywhere else
with others? Mm-hmm. Like, I gotta go and have this experience when the continent has so much to offer today, and then I can work my way back to the history. I'm saying this because we started this conversation with how emotional this book can be if you are that kind of person that puts yourself in the story, where you experience the fear, the joy, the sadness, what you have to do to push down who you are for survival. And that if you need to pick this book up and put it down, and then pick it up and put it down, then that's what you do to access this reflection of this story of what happened to us.
And also reading in community too.
Mhm.
Reading
Exactly.
in community, like you said, like I think some books are meant to be read in community, and we are a communal people, right? So what I love about these book chats is we'll have these kind of conversations and we're coming at it from not just our own personal histories, but we're in different generations. We are in different states. We've traveled to different places. So we are bringing in all of this knowledge. We're bringing all of our knowledge and all of our feelings and emotions to the text, and our interpretation of it is all going to be different. So it's important for me to hear what you got out of the novel. It's important for you to hear what I got out of it. And I think a lot of the books that we read in the Black community are meant to be shared, meant to
Yeah.
stick with us in a way, meant for you to kind of internalize it and take, well, what does it mean to me and my identity and who I am? And I think this is one of those books.
And access it in whatever way makes sense for you. If you, So I'm thankful for the book club. I'm thankful that you all aren't just encouraging us to read these various Black stories, but like you said, that there is value in the different perspectives that we come away with, but the importance of sharing it. I got something new out of the book from just these conversations with the two of you, that even though I felt the book very deeply and spent time thinking about it, I got even more out of it because of it. So I'm so glad we're having this conversation today, and all of the great comments in the chat today. And I'll be checking, because I come back to the videos and see what do the people say that watched in the replay. So
Yeah, did we have any questions that we didn't answer?
Yeah, no one asked any questions. I think we've had amazing comments in the chat. I tried to touch on everything that people wanted us to talk about in the Facebook group. So if you guys are watching the replay, I'm looking to see if I missed anything. If you guys are watching the replay now, drop down in the comment section, let us know if there was anything that you might have missed from the discussion that you wish we had talked about that we didn't get to. Oh, you know what? There was this question from Bonita. Bonita was supposed to be here today.
She
So
had
I'm
some
looking.
family. She had family and stuff. Yeah.
Oh. Well, you were missed.
That's in the chat.
You were missed. But she did ask a question. She put it in the Facebook group. So she wanted to talk about, I think we kind of talked about how the white men sought out and married and then had children with African women, yet believed in the enslavement of Africans. I feel like we didn't really go into that a lot. Do y'all want to open that can of worms again?
I
She had some good ones.
My question, okay, so in that, because we all know why, right? We all know why.
Ooh.
But my question is, like, okay, they had limited choices. So when I was reading those passages, I'm like, okay, my question was, would you have rather been a pampered wench, right? Because that's what they were, or the fifth or sixth wife of a man who had this many wives and you had to share?
Now hold up.
Because that's basically what their choice was. That's what they were.
I mean, it's a cultural thing, so it wasn't. But it also, so it's like if we have to take away, the current idea of marriage. I think,
yeah,
because culturally, it's okay in Ghanaian culture to have multiple wives, and low key, it don't look that bad. In my old age, I'm like, maybe I do need a part-time husband, Okay, you only got to see
My
him
choice
probably
would have
like,
been, I would have been, yes, I would be the fifth wife because,
and I get my own hut.
yes, and culturally, all of that, and somebody can help me raise my children. But in light of the situation that they were, this is what it was, either this or this, right? And it seemed like from outside looking in, if you were to, because they had a lot of wives. I'm not whatever. It's whatever. Because if somebody wanted me now, you know what I mean? If I can have another husband, you can have another wife. We good. You know what I mean? Like,
That's what I'm
I'm
saying.
good.
Like,
Right. But but taking our context out of this, if you were back then, the choice, would you have rather been this or rather been that? That's what I was thinking. Not that anybody has to answer that, but that's what I was thinking when I was reading.
but you're taking away from your family.
Right.
That I was going to bring that up. I was like, you are, because she talked, let's see. Effie talked about not having a lot of children, and family around her. And she was talking about what? No, I would rather be with my people than away. When the ladies were talking together, when the wenches were talking together about their situation and what they needed to do, y'all, it ain't never good. It ain't never good to be separated from your people, to be taken. I just look, even if I wouldn't have chosen that.
Like Effie, how are y'all pronouncing her name?
Effia.
Effia.
Okay.
She was treated so badly.
Oh, by her mother.
You know what I mean? Right. Would she have? Which life was better for her?
Well, she wanted to marry. What was his
name? But
it
wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen. That wasn't her choice.
Right.
Like in situation, because we're thinking about the idealistic family life, right? But in some of these situations, they didn't have a great life in the village. It's a hard knock life. Like, okay, either which choice to make is all I'm saying.
When she said he closed when he told her what was happening in the dungeon and she started screaming and she said, what? She said, I
want to go
I
home.
now understand how strong that he held back from harming me.
Yeah.
I can't see my way to that was better.
Yeah.
I just can't.
It's just but
it's also, I know we taking the modern context away, but it is also like the patriarchy. So it's like, as a woman in the patriarchy, because that proceeds over regardless of what path you choose, you still are within the patriarchy. Because I mean, if we look at Mame, she was raped by Essie's dad, the guy who actually was Essie's father.
Right.
So I mean, it's like, you stay with your people and you get traded like property, right? So like you become one of 5 wives or one of however, or like, let's say your father wants a connection with the neighboring chieftain or whatever, so he marries you off, because that's, I mean, you don't know those people.
Or you get kidnapped like a boy's mother.
Right?
Yeah, you don't, I mean, and I think part of it too is because there is that, like, there was a way that they were already doing things. So by the time the Europeans came in, they were probably thinking, oh, if I marry my daughter to this white man and he gives me, because they said the white men paid better, right? So they offered weapons and whatever else.
It's like your
right. It's like you're just trading, which was common practice. You trade women. So who would have imagined?
To answer Bonita's question, it was both patriarchy. It was both. They're both of the situations. Either marrying a white people because they wanted to do that, life would have been better. You in your culture, you're in your village, but you were still under the arm of the men. You still so patriarchy plays a part in both choices. You had no freedom to do what you wanted to do anyway. You know what I mean? You had no freedom over here, and your father or your whatever, you had no freedom over here.
So the real answer is we all need to leave. I'm just kidding. We all need to leave. Alicia says, in this context, it seems that the women hoped for the lesser of two evils based on their existence.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to get to, Alicia. Yes. Yes.
Well.
And are we still doing that now?
Oh, I don't know. I can't. Ooh,
are we still doing that now? Ooh. Not even with the choice of men, but with the choice of countries. Are you still okay? We leave the U.S. There are great countries out there. I'm not saying that, but it's the choice of lesser evil. That's what you're looking for.
I guess in terms of like freedom, tying it back to what Dee said earlier, what does freedom look like for you? It seems like you have to weigh your own pros and cons, right? Yeah. So whether it's with a man or a country.
Yeah, and what does freedom look like to them? At that, what choices you make. What does freedom look like to you? Yeah.
That's true.
You tie that all together.
Okay, and then kind of connected, not really connected. Do you think if Africans who sold their brothers and sisters to white slavers knew how they were treated, would they have sold them?
Power, baby.
I think the ones in power would have still sold them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're not, I think part of it is the way that we receive our history, right? Because in Black history, we are often seen as people who are oppressed and then overcome oppression. We are seldom seen as the villain. We're often painted as villains in the media, but we know day to day that we're myriad, right? So like, yeah, there are sketchy people in the world, and yeah, sometimes they happen to be Black, but it's not the totality of who we are as a people. In history, though, I think when we have to think about Africans who sold other Africans into slavery, it presents a villain character, essentially. And I think sometimes as Black Americans, if we're looking for someone to blame, we may blame the people who look like us instead of the originators of all the chaos.
I think the blame was equally spread, especially in this book. The blame is equally spread, equally shared. And because they did later on, after the slavery in the slave trade ended in the book, it was like a short passage that addressed that question. It addressed if what was the original question, Keyoka?
Do you think if Africans who sold their brothers and sisters to white slavers knew how they would be treated, would they still have chosen to sell them?
There's a passage, I didn't mark it, but there's a passage when they're talking, two men are talking about how they're treated over in Americas. And he says yes. And they ask the question, like, would you? And he says yes. We're all culpable. We are all a part of this. And they address that 3 times in the novel. Like, no one's hands are clean. We all took a part of this. This is what was done. Even though they knew, they might not know the atrocities, but eventually they did. Eventually got around, and they were still, even after the slave trade ended, they were still practicing and selling slaves. So we're all, they addressed it 3 times. We're all culpable. All our hands are dirty. Yeah, they would have done it. That's what they said. That's what in the book it was addressed. So that's where I'm taking my cues from. So yeah, they would have kept on. It would have kept on.
Yeah. Okay, y'all. I think we've ripped this part to shreds. I'm sure it's been highlighted and underlined, and
yes, there's some stuff into like religion.
No subject was unturned. I
Yeah.
do think that, I mean, we could have got deeper with spirituality. I think there's a space for that. I think it there was a scene where Marjorie was being bullied by some black kids when they were talking about her reading, and I
Mhm.
was like, oh, that's just a black girl who grew up around white folk experience right
Right.
there. It's like that has nothing to do with ethnicity. That's good old racism passed down by people who look like you. We know that.
Oh, yeah. That's the toxic.
Um,
I took note at some of the reproductive references. You know, when the um, when we started, when the story started, she was like, you know, tell me when your period starts. You know, this is how to stop it. You know, in several instances of being able to control our body.
mm,
H's wife talked about, you know that when you said somebody else's name,
Mm.
like I haven't. Here's the legacy of what I've not been able to have control over,
This is
and
the
then
only thing I
you
had
tried to
control
take
of.
that from me. I was like, that whole, like I said, there's a lot. There's a lot. I can see why you would take a second and or a third pass at this book, because each time you'll be able to, to look at it from a different perspective. The honor and the gold chair, just there's lots of
the
good layers.
stone, the
Yes.
the black
Yes, we
stone.
didn't talk about the
I
stone.
didn't even get
We
to
talk
Okay,
about the stone.
so
stone.
the moral of this chat is there's so much more that you can read the book. Read the book because we can't. It's been an hour. It's almost 2 hours. Read the book. It's so much that we covered. There's so much more that we did not cover. The stone, having the physical something that your forefathers, your ancestors held. We didn't get into that, but it's so much more that is that this book represents. We think you should take a look.
Yes, and I want to leave us with something that Alicia, girl, we're gonna get it right today. Okay, today we're gonna get it right. I don't know if we can get it right next time, but today, she said, I always enjoy the review and conversations from the books read. I love the perspectives that may never have crossed my mind. It's always insightful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Thank you, co-hosts. You never let us down, lady.
If
Thank
you are, thank you for D for joining us. You gotta make this a regular thing, girl. We love when you come down to the channel
Yes, you always
and share your
especially the emotion.
perspective.
You bring the emotion to the chat.
But you always, D, you always say something that I'm like, I never thought about it that way. I'm happy she brought that up. Or I didn't get that from the book, but you know what? I'm gonna take it with me, and now I have a new perspective. I have a new idea. So thank you for joining us.
And the fact that your parents were from Pratt, the fact, like, it was really a home going for you. I love that. I love it for you.
The book was a homegoing for you, for us, for all of us.
For all of us.
Very
yes.
true.
If you guys are catching the replay, like the video. Hello? This is a small way for you to show the YouTube algorithm. Mene, stop trying to hit on me. I see you in the chat. Stop trying to hit on me. This is a small way. Did you like the video, Mene? Did you subscribe to the channel? Did you share the video on social media? If you're catching the replay, that is what I would love for you to do. If you are catching the replay and you see something that, or you have a new idea, a new thought about the book that you want to share, drop down in the comment section. And as always, you can join the Read and Wonder book club on Facebook. I think I know what I want the next read to be. It was a suggestion by one of the members. Do you remember what that is,
I
Yvonne?
don't remember, but I saw it too. We'll post it.
Yeah, we'll post it. I'll post it on my YouTube channel, and I'll also post it in our Facebook group. If you are interested in reading with us for the next month, in the description of the video, you'll see a link to join the Read and Wonder book club. And I'll see y'all next time. Thank you. Bye.
See y'all later.
See y'all later.